So this unit introduces the foundations of sport governance and explores the principles that guide effective sport administration. Governance determines how sport organizations are directed, managed, and held accountable. Throughout this unit, you will examine governance concepts, principles, structures, stakeholder relationships, and governance challenges that influence the effectiveness and sustainability of sport organizations. Sports governance refers to the structures, systems, policies, and relationships through which organizations are directed and controlled. Governance establishes how authority is exercised, decisions are made, and leaders remain accountable to stakeholders. Effective governance promotes organizational stability, transparency, ethical leadership, and sustainable sport development at every level of the sport system. So, the purpose of governance really is to provide strategic direction while ensuring that organizations remain accountable and effective. So that good governance actually supports responsible financial management, sound decision making, compliance with policies, and effective oversight of organizational activities. It enables sport organizations to identify risks, allocate resources responsibly, and achieve their long term objectives. So, so good governance is built upon several core principles. One is accountability. Now, accountability requires leaders to accept responsibility of decisions and actions. Transparency uh, promotes openness and access to information. Integrity encourages ethical conduct and responsible leadership. So these principles strengthen organizational credibility, improve stakeholder confidence, and contribute to sustainable and effective sport organizations. So let's talk about accountability and transparency. So accountability and transparency are fundamental to effective governance. Leaders should explain and justify organizational decisions while providing accurate and timely information to stakeholders. So these practices strengthen trust, improve organizational legitimacy, and reduce opportunities for misconduct and support ethical leadership within sport organizations at every level and of every size. How about stakeholders in sport governance? Where do we place them? Now, sport organizations operate within a network of stakeholders who both influence and are affected by the organizational decisions. So, so these include athletes, coaches, uh, officials, clubs, schools, sponsors, governments, uh, governing bodies, volunteers, um, local and local communities. So effective governance requires balancing these different interests while maintaining organizational objectives and public confidence. What about governance structures? Where do we see them in this matrix here? Well, governance structures define how authority, responsibility, and accountability are organized within sport organizations. So boards provide strategic oversight, executives uh, manage organizational performance, and operational teams deliver programs and services. So clearly, governance structures improve efficiency, strengthen accountability, and support effective organizational leadership and decision making. So, what challenges are faced in governance? So, many sport organizations experience governance challenges that um, affect organizational performance. Common issues include financial mismanagement, effective ineffective leadership, conflict of interest, weak accountability systems, poor stakeholder engagement, and governance disputes. Addressing these challenges requires strong leadership, continuous evaluation, transparent systems, and a commitment to ethical practices. So, a national sports federation has uh, introduced, uh, governance reforms in this case study. So these governance reforms are aimed to strengthen accountability, improve organizational structures, and align its governance practices within national and international standards. The reforms include clear reporting systems, revised board responsibilities, a strong financial oversight, and great stakeholder engagement. Now, consider how these reforms could improve organizational effectiveness and stakeholder confidence. That's the case study that we're trying to examine here. So, when you've examined this in your manual and on the portal, and you've had discussions with your colleagues and classmates, I hope this study demonstrates to you that governance improvement involves more than changing organizational structures. Sustainable reform requires committed leadership, stakeholder participation, transparency, and continuous evaluation. Effective uh, governance strengthens organizational performance while improving credibility and public trust. So consider how these apply to your own sport organization within your own community or your workplace. So, some practical applications here. So, sport um, managers can apply governance principles by establishing clear organizational structures, promoting ethical leadership, strengthening accountability systems, and engaging stakeholders in decision making. So these practices improve organizational performance, increase stakeholder confidence, and support sustainable sport development. Applying governance principles consistently is an important sustainability is important uh, responsibility for all of us that are involved in sport at every level of it. So some takeaways, colleagues. So this so the so this unit introduced the foundations of sport governance and examined the principles that underpin effective sport administration. You explored governance concepts, including accountability, transparency, stakeholder relationships, governance structures, and governance challenges. The next unit then will examine governance structures and uh, how different sport organizations work together to govern and develop sport. I thank you for your attention and your engagement on this unit, and I wish you the very best as you thrive on.